I finally found just the right classic convertible. Let's go! Well, this adventure begins now. It actually started way back this summer where I decided I had to have another big American convertible. I remember having them sort of as a teenager, and most recently, I think if you've been following me, you'll recall that 66 Buick Special that I had, the one that started roadkill. Finnegan and I rescued it from Rick Payway's backyard, and that was like 15 years ago. And maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago, I ended up selling the thing, and I've always kind of regretted it. And I don't need to have a convertible as a forever car, but I got to experience it. I got to cruise it around. The problem was that desire was August, and right now it is almost Thanksgiving, and I'm finally getting around to picking up a car that I had left a deposit on just a few months ago. And I've been having trouble figuring out how to get up to Visalia, California, where the car is, in order to pick it up. And now I'm going to do that on the bus. Yeah, I'm taking the bus 4 hours north from here in San Fernando, California, all the way up to Visalia. Let's find out how this goes. While I'm sitting here relaxing, riding the bus, I'm realizing that if you're watching this video right when it drops, you've only got a few days for a chance to win my 90 Suburban 4x4 and $5,000. Entries end December 7th, 2025, so check out my website, the link is in my description, and see how you might be eligible to win this thing. So this is pretty cool. I arrived in Goshen, California, and that is Kenny Munyon right now from Garage Fathers, who picked me up in a car you might recognize. That is the Gargantua wagon from Roadkill Garage. And we'll sort of tie together the connections on this as we head over to Kenny's shop. But check this thing out. What year is it again? 68? 68 Chrysler Town and Country station wagon, 440 power. I picked this thing up, I can't even remember when. It's got to be 5 or 6 years ago for an episode of Roadkill Garage, and Dulcich and I loved the thing, but then Motor Trend ended up selling it to a guy who did a bunch of stuff to it. Then they bought it back, and then Dulcich and I didn't want to deal with it, and then when Motor Trend fell apart, they ended up selling the car to my buddy Charlie, brother of Wiley, who was on our crew, and long story short, it's for sale now again, but we're going to take it for a cruise over to Kenny's shop. So Kenny and I cruised the Gargantua wagon over to Exeter, California, and you know what? It was a great flashback. This thing is powered by a 440, it's got an automatic, and it is enormous and rides like a waterbed. The thing is just unbelievably smooth. I remember this thing only for about a week of its life while we shot Roadkill Garage, and it's good to see it again. These guys have cleaned it up and made it way better. This is the type of car I remember buying for like $800 and cruising for a summer and getting rid of. It is ideal that way. I actually love the Gargantua wagon, but I don't need to own it again. If you do, look up Garage Fathers here on YouTube and hit up Kenny. Maybe he can sell you this fine piece of American engineering. Now we've arrived at Garage Father's, and he's got some pretty cool stuff parked outside over here. There's this really funky early motorhome right here parked next to, I think, Kenny's kids' cars, including that 62 Pontiac Tempest, powered by the Trophy 4-cylinder, which is half of a Pontiac 389 V8. And over here he's got, let's see, I think it's a 62 Cadillac, like Finnegan's, and a 63 Pontiac Bonneville. You can see out on the street there is that flexible bus. He's got a couple VWs here. And inside is kind of a showroom. He helps people sell their cars, sort of on a consignment deal. So there's this street rod pickup truck, and that is a 55 Thunderbird with a 56 hardtop on it over there. And Kenny's 39 Ford Coupe. Now, he saw an episode where I was considering buying and building one of these things. The bummer is I was actually shopping for this exact coupe. I saw an ad for it on Marketplace or something. It was used in the background of American Graffiti. So we're gonna drive that thing later. But first, here's what I actually came for. The 1965 Ford Galaxie convertible. Look at that beater. This thing is gonna be great. It is powered by a angry 352 cubic inch Ford FE V8. And look at the quality of the interior on this thing. All right, the car really needs tires, and so what we're gonna do is a lead and follow in the 39 Ford and the Galaxie, and we're gonna head over to a tire store where I'm gonna get some new meats on this garbage. Well, here's what's happening now. We got to the tire shop, and apparently the tires that were ordered for the front end of this thing did not arrive. And so they're sending somebody to Bakersfield to buy them. So I got about 2 hours to kill. And so we're gonna go out and cruise in Kenny's 39 Ford and see what that's all about. Now we're leaving the tire shop and we're gonna take a cruise in Kenny's coupe over some very, very cool hills. Very super scenic here, and Kenny promises me that there is a cool old gas station at the end of the road up here in Lemon Cove, California. You know what? This thing is tight inside, as you would expect from an old coupe like this. People were just smaller back then. I dig the black pleated interior on it, and the car is kind of what you'd expect from an old hot rod. Solid axle front. I think it's got a 9-inch or something like that in the back. 350 Chevy, turbo 350 transmission, runs and drives as expected, up to the point where we had an evil vibration. I think we hucked a cap off the U-joint in the drive shaft, but we were able to limp it to this cool old Richfield station. So I think what's gonna happen is Kenny's gonna call a buddy and haul us back to town. The tire store called and said that they were finished. So we're gonna do that and see if we can get back there and see if I can actually get on the road.
Well guys, it's the end of the day. We broke down in the 39. We finally got some tires. It took all day, but we finally got tires on the Galaxie. And Mr. Freiburger here is out of here. And David, thanks, man. It was certainly an adventure.
Yeah.
I hope you don't break down in this one.
Me too, we'll see.
Yeah.
I'll have a good video if it does.
Right, exactly. And I'm gonna miss this car, guys. I've always loved it, and
he told me call him first when I need to sell it.
Yeah, exactly.
Which could be the day after tomorrow.
Well, I won't be ready by then.
Okay.
But so take your time. But thanks for watching, guys. And Dave, I hope you enjoy the car even half as much as I have, man.
I think
it's
so.
Great. All right, cool. Thank you. Oh, and to you guys that hated on this car for all these years, I think we have the authority on whether the car is cool or not.
The car's cool. Yeah.
It's cool.
It's exactly the giant American barge that rides like a marshmallow that I was looking for.
It's perfect. All right. Thank you, guys. See you next time.
Now it's morning. After the tire shop last night, I was burned into the ground and I didn't want to cruise this thing at night for the very first time, and I couldn't shoot video, so I cannonballed directly to a hotel, woke up this morning, and I am all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready to discover my brand new 1965 Ford Galaxie 500 convertible. You know, in 1959, Ford came out with the Galaxie nameplate. I think they were going after the whole space age thing with the Galaxie name. I don't know why they spelled it with an I-E instead of a Y, but by the time 1965 rolled around, it was the third generation of Galaxie. So this 65 was a new body style and new mechanically for that model year. And the thing that I think is really cool is that Ford ended up having a really dominant season in stock car racing in 1965. Perhaps as a result of that, the new front suspension design on this car ended up being used in NASCAR and in other stock car racing series for a long time. I'm not sure I can say decades, but it was many, many years that even if you had a GM stock car racer, the chassis included 65 style Ford Galaxie front suspension. And of course they used the Chevy truck arm, like a half-ton 67 Chevy truck in the back. And so this has clear NASCAR ties. But the other thing about 1965 is the way they advertised the Galaxie. They actually said that they were quieter and smoother than a Rolls-Royce. I'm guessing that's not gonna hold true to my garbage right here. So let's take a closer look at this 65 Galaxie, and I'm gonna be discovering it at the same time that you are. Let me tell you the story of why the front clip and the trunk are different colors, and I got this from Kenny. He said that when he bought this thing, it was from the son of the original owner, and the story is in the 70s, they were towing a boat with it, and it still has a trailer hitch on the back, and I don't know how this happened, but the boat ended up coming off the trailer, gacking the trunk lid, going over the top, I guess the top was down or it would have gotten wrecked, and smashing the front clip, their fiberglass boat. And way back then, they were able to find a parts car and put a new front clip on it, as well as a new deck lid. So apparently it hasn't been crashed. Apparently that's why there's a mismatch clip on it. And I guess I need to walk around, find out what's going on body-wise. I didn't get this thing because it's in super nice shape, although it is pretty mint. I got it because I just wanted another big, floaty American convertible for a road trip. Let's pop the hood. All right, this thing's a sconge pit, not surprising at all. It is a 352 cubic inch Ford FE, which of course means Ford Edsel engine. The engine family that debuted in the 1958 Edsel. The 352 cubic inch version is really the same as a 360 except for the bore. I think it's a 4-inch bore and a 3.5-inch stroke on this baby, and makes 250 horsepower. I noticed immediately that Kenny obviously executed the old flip over the air cleaner lid trick. Not sure it's doing a whole lot here, and I didn't floor it to find out if it goes boh or not. Oh, looks like it has an aftermarket carburetor on it as well. Yep, it's got a much later Holley 1850, 600 vacuum secondary on that. Looks like the distributor cap has been replaced and wires. Kenny told me this thing's never let him down except for a condenser failed one time. Looks like the master cylinder's been changed. It's got the plastic lid instead of a metal one. And of course, because this is a 1965, it has a single pot master cylinder, not dual reservoir for this unit. Looks like this car did not come with air conditioning. It currently does come with a little bit of rat poop because it wouldn't be a Freiburger old vehicle without a little bit of rodentia action going on. Let's see, I should probably check fluids. Good. The power steering groans a little bit. There's no stick on the bottom of the power steering reservoir. There's also no fluid in the power steering, so we should probably take care of that. Dipstick a Rooney. Let's see, I'll just go ahead and wipe that off on whatever this bandage is that is on the power steering hoses. Blech. Should there be oil in it? I'm thinking there should be oil in it. Okay, I'm gonna need oil as well. That leads me to believe I should check the master cylinder. Pretty good. I might want to splash a little bit in there. I don't think it's running out anytime soon. Ooh, the automatic transgression. Where's the dipstick for that? Right there. Gonna need to fire it up. Oh, no, I don't need to fire it up. That's totally empty. All right, we'll be making a parts store run for a bunch of fluids. Alternator looks kind of new. Okay, let me put this aside. Actually, I'll put this back on. We'll go look at the rest of the car. Ooh, let's look at our NASCAR front suspension. I have no idea what made this suspension so trick that they would use it for so long. It's your standard A-arm deal. And under the back, by the way, this car does use coil springs and a 3-link rather than leaf springs. That's what leads to that cushy Rolls-Royce defeating ride. Okay, let's say goodbye to the 352 for a minute. Interior's gross, which is actually a requirement for me in a car like this, meaning an old convertible. You know, I'm gonna leave the top down virtually always. I don't wanna worry about it. I don't wanna care what gets trashed. I wanna be able to jump in over the doors, and this offers all of that. The upholstery appears to be original. It's even got the little buttons in it, the kind that get super hot in the sun and then sear your back, sort of brand you forever with the Galaxie upholstery trim. The worst part of this is actually the carpet. See, when this gets rained in, it is gonna get sloshy and disgusting, and that plush sculpted carpet that came from your grandmother's house is going to get fragrant. It's going to be very, very bad. It also appears to have the factory Ford rubber floor mats in it, which is kind of impressive. Other than that, it's just good beater stuff. I would like to clean it up a little bit. You know that thing where it's okay if stuff is filthy as long as it's your filth? Well, this has a lot of kind of other filth going on. I may need to deal with that. Oh, I already did test last night. All of the windows go up and down. That's critical. There's nothing dorkier than having a convertible and having one window stuck up. Oh no, there is something dorkier. Driving around intentionally with all of the windows cranked up and the top down. I say that, and who knows, that could be coming in this episode. I hear rain is coming. Other than that, I'm gonna have to do a little reupholstery there, but as expected. Let's see what's in the trunk. Okay. Kind of gross. That'll go in the trash pile. No. Okay. Bungees could be handy, you never know. Don't know where it's been. Got to go to the parts store anyway. Plastic mirror not going in use. Torque converter cover for the front of the bell housing. Okay. Battery hold down. Possibly OE, so I'm keeping it. Belts. Completely destroyed, but could save my life. Oh. Scored a screwdriver. That's good to have. Empty box of a lock. Could that be the trunk lock? I don't know. Modern rodding. Do not need. What is happening here? Okay, OE spare tire stuff. Ancient adapter from two-prong to grounded plug doohickey. Bye-bye. New brake shoes. Okay. That could be worthwhile. Could have merit. What do we got here? A float, a carb kit, the original master cylinder, another lock cylinder, and an oil filter. Okay, we'll just shove that over here. Ooh, trailer wiring. Cool. That's what that is. Piece of weather strip. What taillight lens is that? It's a Guidex. It's a 1967. What taillight lens is that? You pick. Another magazine, unfortunately. All Chevy magazine. Bye-bye. The Galaxie Gazette. What is this lens? That looks like a third brake light to me. SAE 1985. What is that from? That one is not getting kept. More. Ooh, look at this. This is a 1967 backup light lens. Hang on. Hang on. Aha. I think we're now going to be able to put two and two together, quite literally. I think that might be a better clue as to what taillight lens that is. Name it in the comments. Antenna. Do I not have an antenna? That's a weapon right there. Put that over there. Disgusting. Not disgusting, but trash. Pen. 1 inch of rubber fuel line. Some horrible thing. Wood block could come in handy. That's a wheel chock right there. So is that jack foot. And there are bits of the lock mechanism, like the retaining clip and the little arm for the lock mechanisms. We'll keep that. And of course I got a lug wrench. Okay. I would say that was not too fruitful, but it's not too bad. By the way, the trunk floor is virtually mint. It's got some junk on it stuff, but there's no rust. The car's actually pretty good. All right, let me knock down the spare tire and throw this stuff back in here, including my luggage, and maybe at some point I'll vacuum this. Oh, look. There it is. Yes, someone had a third brake light on this thing. Thank goodness that's gone. I think that's what that is. That is not factory. Weird. Unless that's a trunk light. Could that be a factory trunk light? What is that? Does that have something to do with the stereo or top? I don't know. Don't touch it. It'll break. I feel kind of obligated to have a look under the back of the car. I've sort of scanned the body and it's got a lot of scratches and checking and primer and a little Bondo and stuff. Really the only rust is at the bottom of the rocker panels here, or bottom of the quarter panels on both sides. But let me have a look underneath. I also want to check out my coil link suspension. Okay, trunk floor mint as expected. Ford 9-inch as expected. Cherry bombs, that's a bonus. Heat wrap, no one saw that coming. Ooh, shocks with the coils on them. Sweet. Look at the adjustment on those things. It's like muffler clamps. Wow, that's brilliant. And as promised, 3-link suspension. Last thing under here, let's talk about the wheels. Kenny mentioned to me that he thought this was something special, and I actually did some research with some buddies because the thought is that this could be an original, what they call crow's foot design American torque thrust D, meaning the very early version of when they took the torque thrust wheel with the straight spokes and converted it to the bent spoke so that it would accommodate a disc brake caliper. It looks to me though like these wheels are two-piece. So I think they are a more modern reproduction of that crow's foot wheel. And they're not drilled in the center right here, or, you know, there's no 5 bolt holes for bolting on the center cap. So I think they're reproductions, but man, they really make the look of the Galaxie. All right, it is finally time to get out of here. Okay, before I leave here, I'm gonna reupholster because who knows where that's been. Blech. Mine is much better. This is gonna need to go all the way. I like the way there's a Scotch-Brite pad shoved in here. Why? Weird. I'll just leave that alone. Ah, newfound luxury. Nice. Okay, if you've had a mid-60s Ford like I have so many times, you know that the neutral safety switch is hinky, and I usually do the reach up and over and pull the handle up while cranking in order to overcome the loose neutral safety switch. On this, there's a different trick. If you put the thing in park, which you should never do, you need to hold the key and then reach down here and fiddle with the switch until you get it to run, just like that. And then you want to just leave the thing sitting in neutral with the parking brake on from this point forward in your life. Finally, let's get out. Laid back. This thing's gonna be good. All right, priorities. What do I want to do on this trip? First of all, I need to get to a parts store and get fluids in this thing because that's bad. And second of all, I need to see cool stuff. You know my routine. There's a bunch of old tracks around here that I would like to revisit, see some cool Americana as I do, and hope, as a final priority, that this junk actually makes it all the way home. It's only a 3-hour trip home, 4 hours by bus, 3 hours by this, but I'm gonna take the long, long way and see some neat stuff. The seat is completely destroyed and sagged out to the perfect lean. It makes the elbow rest a little uncomfortable. It's a little too high, so that's a downside. Aside from that, it's really good. I feel like I should be driving in like rubber gloves though, because the steering wheel is pretty disgusting. The first thing that I wanted to do is just make a drive-by here at the Visalia, California airport. And obviously I'm not going to be able to get in and on the runway, but I wanted to say that I've been here because this place was a drag strip starting in the mid-50s, reportedly 1954, and all the way through the very early 60s. They had drag racing here on this runway. The Visalia drag strip was founded by the Vapor Trailers Car Club, founded in 1948, and they had races in 1953 at Sequoia Field, but 1954 saw the first races here at Visalia Airport. 1961 was the final mention that I could find anywhere about races that they had here, and that's the same year as this aerial shot right here, and also 1961 was the date of a story about the Vapor Trailers in Hot Rod magazine. Interestingly, the car club is still active today. And now I can say that I've been there. I can mark it off my list as a track that I have been to. Parts store, food. All right, I stopped at O'Reilly Auto Parts to get some various sauces and stuff. Let's lube it up. One thing I really can't stand is driving with no rear view mirror, and this has no rear view mirror except for the one on the fender that's almost useless. So I bought one and I'm gonna install it. I found that these glue kits work about 50% of the time. We'll see if I get lucky or not. I got that button stuck on the windshield and I'm gonna let it adhere for about half an hour, which means I'm gonna go get a burger. I found a cool spot on the phone. Gotta do the neutral safety trick. Oh wow, power steering doesn't groan anymore. There's a shock. Put fluid in it and everything gets to be okay. And now, a burger has been ingested at Rainbow Drive-In right behind me. Not bad, not awesome, but I would say pretty good. The question is, will the rear view mirror now stick on its new mount? So far, so good. Is it adjustable? Ooh, seems to be sticking. It's a lousy mirror. Weird. All right, I don't love the quality of the mirror itself, but it appears to be sticking. Let me screw it on. Okay, on the road again. There is absolutely nothing to see here. And I've come to see it anyway, because, you know, sometimes you just gotta come stand with the ghosts. This is the site of the very first super speedway in California. NASCAR races dating back to 1951. This was Marchbanks Speedway, also known as Hanford Speedway. I'm just a little bit south and east of Hanford, California. This all started with a dream by B.L. Marchbanks, who wanted to have a horse race track, but ended up with sort of a rodeo ground, and they had bullfighting. And pretty quickly in 1951, they were announcing that they were having roadster and midget racing, which was very quickly changed to jalopy racing, and later on they really stuck with the term hot rod racing. The big deal is that the very first NASCAR race at Marchbanks Speedway was in October of 1951. This 1957 aerial shows two big ovals and big plans for more tracks, which you can see here in this 1961 aerial, where there's a huge variety of tracks on site. It's even said that that place in the center there was eventually dug out for a lake and drag boat racing, but I can't find any reports of that actually happening. Now, this final one is in 1967. And you can see that it's been revised into a big track for USAC Champ Car racing. Now here's the cover for that 1960 NASCAR race. And here in 1967 is the USAC program, and you can see that legendary promoter J.C. Agajanian is now involved. And here in 1969 is the program for the California 200, also an Agajanian program, but after that, it seems that they were unable to find any more races to happen there, and that was pretty much the end. It might have trickled into 1970, and the place was razed in 1984. And that's the story of the place. Now you know. Kind of hard to believe that something so massive and kind of so awesome has just vaporized. I mean, it's farmland now, so it's got merit, but wow, to think what stood here and is completely gone today. Mind-blowing. Okay, I've got more cool stuff to see before the sun goes down, because I have a feeling it's gonna get cold in this thing. Oh man, gotta do the neutral safety switch thing. Got it. I've been driving through old Hanford, California, and they've got a tank and a cemetery and some neat signs and stuff. But right now I am in the old downtown area, and this is a spot that's called China Alley. And apparently some of these buildings are 100 years old, which makes sense, 1920s. And the town apparently popped up around building railroads, and that meant that there was a lot of Chinese workers who came in. And this area is called China Alley. And this one particular stretch of old road here seems like a literal alley. And it is a really neat old Chinese restaurant. Lots of cool relics here. They say that this Taoist temple at the end is very old, and unfortunately, arsonists got to it a couple years ago, and that started the decline of this whole area. But wow, this is cool. Worth seeing. This is the restored original Fox Theater in Hanford, California from 1929. Well, it's getting too dark to shoot. I'm gonna have to start figuring out where I'm gonna stay for the night, and I think it might rain overnight. Hotel. This thing actually cruises really well. Someone told me I've got a tail light out, and I probably want to deal with that tomorrow. I don't want to get pulled over. I think it's going to rain overnight, if not overnight, tomorrow. And I don't want this thing to be soaked when I get up in the morning, so we're going to attempt to put the top up for the first time. Oh, note the snazzy headgear. Yeah, this is the key for cruising in cold weather in your convertible. All right, let me see if I can roll up all the windows, and then we'll see if the top works. Nice. Sweet. One thing I really don't like is when old cars have glass that's all fallen off the regulator in a disaster. It drives me nuts. All right, that one was a little gummy, but it went. Ready to see if the top works? It's power. I feel I should probably start this to put it up. Let's see. Ugh. I am already tired of the neutral safety switch. Not bad. Here goes. Whoa. Like magic. Oh, this is cool. I'm not sure I've ever had one that does that. Oh, that is perfect. And will it hook? Yes! Ah! I even got it hooked on. This thing is mint. I had no idea that the top was in showroom condition or that it was tan. No back window. I knew that that had shattered out of it. That's gonna get all full of water. But wow, that could be worse. Oh man, this thing is sweet. All right, that's good for the night. I'll see you in the morning. And I gotta find more stuff to do. I gotta have this thing break. How come the car hasn't broken yet? Makes no sense. Morning. Yes, rain. Last night I ended up driving back right to where I started. I'm not making much progress here. I'm glad I've got some semblance of a top on this pile because I'm gonna get wet today. Here I am washing windows in the rain. They were covered in dirt. And as you know, once a window gets wet, it's too late to rain exit, unless I can get under an overhang somewhere or something and really dry them off. And I have no wipers, so I'm gonna drive to a parts store and see if I can get some new blades. And hopefully those work. I don't want to test them yet because you know how when you test wipers with no blades, they just like put a big scratch in the windshield. It's already broken, but why make it worse? All right, this is gonna be fun. Oh, here's the thing. Yesterday I mentioned that I wasn't sure why Ford spelled Galaxie with an IE. So I did a little Googling and I came up with a website from a guy who used to work for me named Bill McGuire. He's got a site called maxmotorcitygarage.com. Really good historical blog. He's also got some contemporary news and stuff. But he had mentioned that it came from a French word that was used on a concept car in 1958 that was called La Galaxie. So I looked this thing up, and it's hideous. But when I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, this thing looks like a Chrysler turbine car. Here's why. Elwood Engel was a design guy at Ford, and in 1961 he moved over to Chrysler, and he was the head of design after Virgil Exner, who you've probably heard of, and he was in charge of the design of the turbine car and clearly stole a bunch of his own ideas from the La Galaxie to the Chrysler turbine car, and arguably I think the front end of both the Galaxie and the turbine car influenced the 64 Dodge midsizes as well. So that was cool. You learn stuff all the time if you just go down the rabbit hole, follow the lead of stuff you're curious about. As a reminder, I did buy this thing in sunny weather, left a deposit on it back then. This is dumb. Parts store for blades and a taillight bulb. And neutral safety switch fiddling. Come on, button. Here's a funky thing about the 65 Ford. Actually, there's a whole lot of Fords from this time frame that have the Cruise-O-Matic transmission. I think it's similar to the Ford-O-Matic, or I think Merc-O-Matic, is that what they called the Mercury one? Anyway, there are two drive positions on the shifter. There's a white dot drive and a green dot drive, or perhaps it says D1 and D2. The second position, in this case the green dot, will shift first, second, third like a normal transmission. And then the other position, regular white dot drive, starts out in second gear and then goes to third, and that's it. I suppose it's better for winter driving, less torque to the wheels. Maybe. And of course it also has L, which will hold it in first gear. But if you've got one of these things and it seems like a real dog leaving a stop sign, then you may have the shifter in the wrong position and you're not getting first gear. I found a parts store, and fortunately the problem with the taillight not working was just the bulb. So I changed that and problem solved. I also changed the windshield wiper blades and had the help of the counter guy who recognized me and who was totally cool. The guy from the store recognized me all of a sudden and came out to help with the wipers. Now let's find out if they work. Yes! Wow. Oops, that one just fell off. Okay, let's go deal with that. Lights work, wipers work. Now I'm gonna go see something that's kind of stupid, but I know that if I don't go see it, I'll never do it again because it's in the middle of nowhere. This should be vaguely cool. I really sold that one, didn't I? I drove 45 minutes out of my way for this. the Airplane gas station in Carruthers, California. There's not a whole lot known about this online, but presumably this was put up here in the 50s when there was a craze for using airplanes for gas stations. As a matter of fact, there was one up in Oregon that was really well known with a B-17, and there was one on Wilshire Boulevard in Los Angeles as well. I guess it was a time when there was just surplus aircraft from World War II and it was no big deal. This one here is a Vultee Valiant, which was like a training plane for pilots in World War II. And from the little that I was able to find online on roadsideamerica.com, the guy bought this in order to pull the engine for his crop duster. This is all farmland around here, and ended up putting it up here just sort of as a roadside attraction. So I bought some gas. There's the Galaxie right there. Had a look at the Vultee Valiant. Pretty cool. You know, you gotta see this stuff because it's gonna be gone someday. And the other thing is, when you seek out sites like this, it makes you go on roads where you wouldn't otherwise travel, and sometimes you find other cool stuff as well. All right, off to the next site. Airplane gas station was pretty cool. Kind of weird to think, what is the history of that plane? Did it train somebody who went off to World War II? Hard to know. I wish there was more info on that thing. I'm gonna pull over here because I believe there is an officer behind me. Yeah, that's an officer, all right. Let's see if he will go around me. Yes, he will. Dun, dun, dun. I just found out something about the Galaxie. The heater works. I can't even believe I turned it on to try and find out. The blower doesn't work, but once you're moving, it blows hot air inside. Perfect. You know, that's kind of what makes this car great, is that everything is completely worn out. It is trash looking, but it runs and drives pretty good. It has a broken motor mount. Aside from that, I mean, the dash lights don't work. I haven't checked the turn signals. They blink on the dash. The heater now has hot air. It's perfect. It actually cruises really, really cushy. Kind of the perfect car for me. I don't love the way it looks with the whole front clip being a different color. For some reason to me, that's just weird. It's not patina or anything like that. But as far as the rest of the car, it has met all of my standards for what I wanted out of a convertible. Huge American car, super floaty, don't have to worry about it. And in this case, everything works and it runs and drives pretty good. As a matter of fact, it's kind of a bummer that nothing is braking on it, so that I've got a better video about saving myself from disaster in the middle of nowhere. Here's something I probably should have told you about earlier in the episode, which is that the oil light is on almost all the time. At idle, straight up on. Cruising at light throttle, it flickers. At highway speeds, I'd say above 50, it pretty much isn't on. I take this to mean that the oil pressure when the light is on is less than about 15 pounds. And you saw earlier in the episode, I poured some of that Lucas Super Snot in it, thinking maybe it would raise the oil pressure. Oh, there's the light when you decelerate. That's also a thing. But yeah, it has no oil pressure. So that sort of raises the stakes of potential disaster at some point on this trip. But I'm not worried about it. Rick Payway and I drove his 455 Buick many, many miles with 10 pounds of oil pressure. But now that I bring that up, I remember that we were on Main Street in Moab and spun a rod bearing right there, cruising on Main Street. So maybe the FE is not long for this world, I don't know. Doesn't make any bad noises. Now I'm about 15 minutes up the road from Carruthers and the Airplane gas station, and I'm at the site of the Raisin City drag strip, also called Fresno drag strip. It's hard to believe that this place was an absolute hub of drag racing activity back in the 60s. Officially called Fresno Dragways, the Raisin City track opened in April of 1962 with Accelerators Incorporated leasing the farmland. They had sanctioning from the AHRA. The place was famous for top-name drag racers and also for entertainment like jet and rocket dragsters. Fresno was one of several tracks to run dragsters 4 wide on occasion. In 1966, Blackie Jajian took over management, and he also handled the Clovis Speedway Clay Oval and the Fresno Autorama car shows. Raisin City finally closed in late 1974. You know, in an episode of Roadkill, Finnegan and I came here in my 69 Mustang Mach 1 known as the Disgusting, and we actually drove down the track. It's all closed off now. I'm sure it's private property. And we also went in the old dragstrip tower, which was in fact a repurposed tower from a local airstrip. I can kind of see through the fence over there that that is still here, but farmland is taking over. Anyway, here we are in the middle of farmland, kind of nowhere, enjoying a spot that used to be a hub of hot rodding. Off to the next thing. I've been through a bunch of farmland and now I'm in Lemoore, California. Gonna go down to the old area and see if there's anything great. But as I do that, I thought I would talk about the whole Freiburger thing. I don't know where that got started. Every time I get a new Ford, people call me Freiburger, so I've just come to own it. But most people, when I see them commenting on my videos, they're like, oh, you've probably seen it on this one. I'm surprised you got a Ford. Freiburger hates Fords. I've seen that a bunch, and I actually don't know where it stems from, other than maybe the fact that we haven't done as many of them as we've done Chevys and Mopars, but I've had a whole bunch of Fords. I think the Disgusting is a perfect example, that 69 Mach 1 that I pulled out of a junkyard and spent a fortune on, and I did end up selling it, but it was a labor of love. And right now, of course, I've got a 72 F100 4x4, a 1960 F250 4x4, and this. I also have a couple of hot rod old Fords, but they do have Chevy engines in them, which doesn't bother me. I'll get into that once I do a video about building hot rods. But I have no problem with Fords. I will say I don't love the Mustang Comet Fairlane style front suspension design. The one with the coil spring above the upper control arm, it's the same as a Chevy 2. It's almost identical to an AMC front suspension from the muscle era. I don't dig that at all, but I really like the small block Ford. I like the 8.2 deck height engines, the 289 and the 302. I like those very much. I have a 363 stroker at home. I think the Boss 429 is awesome. I like the Cammer. I would like to build a 460 big block. I admit I have never done that. Well, not never. I did it way back in my Carcraft magazine days in the 90s. And of course, I like the FE. I've got FEs in a few vehicles here, including this one. And I do have a fresh 390 at home that eventually will end up at something, probably one of my trucks. But anyway, there's the quick overview of the, Freiburger hates Fords thing. Not true. I do favor the trucks over the cars, but there's a lot of Ford cars I'd like to have, including a Pinto. I would totally have a 302 Pinto. Anyway, that's the story. You heard it direct from Freiburger. Let's see what's good in Lemoore. Ooh, I'm already seeing some cool stuff in Lemoore. What is this over here? This is cool. The Oak Rooms. Cool old hotel. Oh, yeah. Cool. Look at the Lemoore Theater. Looks newer. That was it for Lemoore. They had some pretty cool old buildings, nice downtown area. Nothing that meets my standards of rundown and cool and car guy-ish though. So I am gonna hit the road for the night. I finally have to start heading for home. It's getting dark. Man, short days. But I've got more to see tomorrow. I have one really good idea of something that I want to check out. I think you're gonna like it. Okay, here's the thing. It is evening. I'm at the side of the road. I was sitting here looking at the map and stuff, and the engine died. And I went to start it again, and the battery's dead. And I'm in the middle of nowhere. So I don't know what's going on. This thing has been flawless up to this point. I'm scared to turn the key and try anything. I am going to sit here and let it cool because I was sitting here with it idling for quite a long time, and cross my fingers that it actually fires up once it cools off. Other than that, I'm going to have to stand in the road and hope for somebody with jumper cables. Yeah. Let the carburetor cool off. It's pretty hot to the touch. Okay, this is pretty cool. I've been sitting in the car waiting for about an hour, and I just haven't wanted to crank it because I don't want to use up whatever battery is left. I wanted to get it perfectly cool, but then a couple of guys just came by in like a Mercedes or something, and they said they live right down the road, and they claim that they're coming back with jumper cables, so hopefully that's true. I'm gonna put the air cleaner back on here because I had taken it off to try and cool off the carburetor. It was really hot to the touch. I thought part of the problem might have been boiling fuel. So hopefully I get rescued here in a minute. Well, this is a bummer. So those guys showed up and actually gave me a jump start. That was super, super cool. And I spiffed them. I took care of those guys for making that run for me. And I got the thing fired up and I was terrified to shut it off. And I cannonballed and I found a gas station because I was low on gas. And now the battery is dead again, which is weird because I went to start it just now and it cranked fast and fired and then died. And then wouldn't crank after that. So I don't know. I guess I'll sit here and wait and see if I can find somebody with another set of jumper cables. Meanwhile, I'll hang out in front of the convenience store. I don't know what time it is, if I can even Uber to get a battery or what. It's 8:15. Man, it gets dark early. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Think they have jumper cables inside? I'm guessing no. Well, this is pretty cool. The lady who works at the convenience store saw that I needed a jump start and she's gonna come do it for me. So I'm rescued once again. All right, she jump started me. It's running. So I'm gonna go try and find a parts store that's open this late and try and fix this thing tonight. Well, that was a night. Got jump started by complete strangers twice. It's a pretty good comment on humanity, I guess, that people would help me out like that. But I have a new battery in it now. I should have all the breakdowns out of the way. But I think what I'm gonna do is load up my luggage and check all the fluids. Okay, what do you think's gonna be missing? Brake fluid? Brake fluid good. Power steering fluid good. Engine oil black and full. And need to have it running for the transmission. Here's the trick. You gotta ask, why was the battery dead last night? I looked at it and it was dated early 2020. So it was 5 years old. I think the battery had just had it. But is my alternator charging? Here's how I'm gonna test that. I'm gonna take a screwdriver and I'm gonna hold it right in the center of the back. And yes, even at this very low RPM, it is magnetized. It is sticking the screwdriver to the back of the alternator. That tends to indicate that it's charging. If there's no magnetism there, it's not. So I have no voltmeter. I'm gonna assume that's okay. All right, it's a little bit chilly, but it's sunny. So when you have a convertible, you gotta convert. Whoa. That'll never stop being amazing. Until it breaks and I have to do it by hand and bleed the hydraulic fluid out of the system and get it all over the inside of the trunk, thereby rust-proofing it forever. That's usually how old convertibles play with me. I just ate here at the Idle Spur Cafe. Now this is the second place I've been to on this trip that is a little diner or cafe attached to an auction house where they auction off livestock. The other one was L&D Country Kitchen in Easton, California. I didn't show you that one. Both of these places are super full of character, loaded up with people who are here to deal with their farming or livestock needs. You saw when I got here, the place was full of nothing but pickup trucks and the Galaxie. I had a really good hamburger here, I recommend it, and also L&D up there in Easton. All right, what I'm gonna do now is start heading for home. I am going through Bakersfield, California, where I'm hoping to see some really cool stuff. As I'm taking my last real stretch of agricultural land in here, I'm thinking about how nice it is to just slowly be able to cruise this thing, not feel obligated to be like Mr. Burnout Guy or going super fast or anything like that. And that made me realize that there's a real philosophy about convertibles among car people. I have noticed that some of the guys I know, as you sort of share, hey, look at this convertible I got and everything, some guys are like zero interest in convertibles, sorry, because they don't see them as muscle cars. They don't see them as a race car. They couldn't be fast if they had no top on them. They're heavier, they're more flexible, they don't handle as well, whatever. See, I don't see them that way. To me, they are just cruisers, exactly like what I'm doing here. Now that's interesting because in the very earliest days of hot rodding, it was all about roadsters, which were, not convertibles, they are roadsters, there is a difference, but they were topless vehicles. And those were considered the only real hot rods. There was a time when coupes are for chickens. You couldn't have a top if you wanted to be like a real dude with a hot rod. The other thing that I think is interesting is how a convertible like this one is really in a different category of a roadster or a sports car or a Corvette roadster or other vehicles like that. It seems like people who hate convertibles might actually be okay with, say, a Miata or a 427 Cobra or something like that. So for me, I haven't always really had to have a convertible, but I do go through phases where I think, man, it would be really cool to have one and just cruise around, and that's exactly what's happening right now. I'm not a guy who needs to put 1,000 horsepower in a convertible just to have a cool car to do burnouts with. So let me know, what's your take on a convertible? Is it a hot rod? Is it a muscle car? Is it a cruiser? Would you rather have a roadster? Would you rather have a sports car? Do you not really dig topless vehicles at all? Is a Jeep a convertible? An early Bronco? I don't know. Discuss. Okay, we're out of the farmland, through the oil fields and into Bakersfield, and I'm rushing in here. I'm at the Kern County Museum. And they're actually closed, but the girl at the front was super cool and said that I could rush in here real quick because I wanted to show you their neon plaza. Bakersfield was a boomtown, of course, and they are known for having all kinds of cool mid-century stuff, actually dating maybe even a little bit older than that. And a lot of that includes really cool old signs, and there's a bunch of them here that have been rescued from the local area. Some of them restored, some of them original, and they're all mounted in a plaza over here that we're gonna get to check it out. super glad that they let me come in here and have a look at that. I've never seen it before in person, just in coverage on the internet. And so now back into the Galaxie as I finally head for home. Will that junk make it? Man, I hope so. Well, I left Bakersfield, sat in a bunch of traffic that was pretty miserable, and unfortunately, when this thing gets hot, it's starting to just stall and shut off. And then you put your foot on the floor and crank it, and you can get it started again. I think it might be fuel boiling. I'm not positive, but I don't love it. That's not gonna be a problem right now, because as I left Bakersfield, get on the highway, you could see that the weather changed from nice and sunny to progressively gloomier and gloomier, and right there, I am looking at a black cloud sky. Now, the problem with that is that I'm about to head up and over what we call the Grapevine here in Southern California. It's sort of the gateway to the Central Valley up here. Very steep, very windy, lots of semi-trucks, and going this way, going down that way, there's no shoulders. It's terrifying in an old car because there's no escape. If you die and go over to the right-hand side, you are gonna get creamed by a semi-truck. I don't love it at all. But I am gonna experience it the proper way with the top down, despite the fact that the weather says it's 40 degrees up there. So I'm gonna bind up in my orange coat. I'm gonna put on my clear glasses so that I can see a little bit better and hope that I make it up and over the Grapevine tonight. You know what the difference is between you and me? I make this look good. Yes, I made it up and over the Grapevine at night in 40-degree weather, and yeah, it did rain on me just a little bit at the top, but the Galaxie survived. I know that you're not accustomed to seeing me in anything this reliable or glamorous, and you know what? I don't get it either, but the Galaxie is everything that Kenny promised me that it would be. I think when you get the car with the sculpted shag, you know you've landed on the right unit. This thing is just the cruise. And the thing I discovered this morning is it goes over speed humps like a trophy truck. It rides so good. Now, you would think that it doesn't really need anything, but let's be honest, I did this in a backwards kind of fashion. You're supposed to get an old car, put it in your driveway, safety check it, make sure that it's reliable, check all the belts and hoses, all of that stuff, and then you do it on the road trip. But that's not the way I roll. I figure you hop in the car and you get out there and you drive your garbage, like I'll be doing in virtually every episode on the David Freiburger channel. So come back for more, because in the future, I feel like I will need to spiff this thing up just a little bit, and I have a whole lot more coming. Road trips, horsepower, wrenching, all that stuff next time on the David Freiburger channel.